Good evening. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another exciting and amazing Prem Connection show. Good evening, Auntie Kamal. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you?
I'm great. Good evening, Auntie Renu. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So how are things going with Prem Connection? I know that we've got some more clients that have been signing up, and that's great. We do see there's someone else in on our show right now, but we'll introduce her just momentarily, Susan, just momentarily. So Auntie Renu, how's Prem Connection been going?
It's been going well, actually. Kamal and I have been doing all these Zoom meetings in the evenings and meeting so many people. We had a connection with somebody in India. We talked to a very handsome gentleman yesterday. I was sitting there going, I wish I was 20 years younger. And then, we have another, actually, while we're on the show today, Sheena is finishing off a profile of another lady on the other Zoom. So things are coming along really well, and it's nice. It's so interesting to, Kamal and I have enjoyed talking to people and listening to their experiences and what they're looking for. It's so funny. When they send their profile in, Rohan, it's what they write and what they say ends up being quite different. Right, Kamal?
Right, and they're looking for examples. I mean, like, if we're going to give them examples, we might as well fill out their profile because we have our own examples. But anyway, we've been getting a lot of inquiries, so which is great, you know. So I think this week we had like 5 or 6 inquiries. So
yes,
really
yeah, that's
good.
great. I mean, I want to remind all the listeners to go to premconnection.com, PREM connection.com. That way you can fill out the form and you can join the database or have Auntie Renu and Auntie Kamal connect with you and go from there. But I think it's great that what you were saying about the guy yesterday, because that's the perfect segue into our guest for today. It's
yes.
Susan Alper from Susan Alper Connections. She is a matchmaker and life coach and entrepreneur. She works a lot with men and feels that men tend to shy away from getting necessary tips and advice on dating. So that's what we wanted to bring on, Susan. So welcome, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me on the show today.
Yeah,
Auntie Rooney was right. Men, they tell you what they want, and you have to decode it and give them what they need, and then it works.
That's interesting. I thought women are the only ones that can't give a straight answer.
No. No. You know, women, you know, what we want today, what we want tomorrow, that's how we work. You know, everything changes. But men, they tend to have a certain way. And sometimes for most men, it doesn't work. So you have to kind of work with them on what works for them long-term.
Before we get
short-term, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Susan. I was just going to say, maybe if you could just give us an example of what you're saying without giving any specifics about a client, but just something that would better help, you know, listeners understand, like when you're saying, like, you know, a guy says, you know, one thing, but then you have to decipher it and decode it for something else.
Okay, an example would be, let's say a man in his 50s, you know, he'll say to me, well, what age should I, you know, what age is good for me? And I say, let's take out age, because age means nothing. What we have to go for is what you want. So for instance, if you're 55 and you're not going to have more kids, you know, you have to be careful when you're dating someone in their 20s and 30s. So what I try to see is where they're at in their 50s. They have the children already. They've been divorced. You know, what's their lifestyle? The most important thing is their lifestyle. You know, if they're traveling and they really have gotten to the point in their life where they're like freedom, well, why are you going to start over with a baby? So you have to talk to them and make sense of it all. You can't just put them out on a date. Then it's not worth working with a matchmaker.
I'm actually I'm so glad you said that, Susan, because that's exactly how our conversation went with this a very wonderful gentleman yesterday. And the same thing, you know, when we asked him the age, he came right back and said, well, what should I be looking for? And that's exactly what we said. I said, age is just a number. I said, I think when two people meet, maybe at a bar or at a party, and you don't know somebody's age and you like each other, then age is not an issue. But I think when we're doing an introduction, then it becomes an issue if you tell somebody that they're 15 years apart. What do you think?
Right.
100, you're so right. And and also when you're working with the matchmaker, I find, sometimes they could be unrealistic. You know what I mean? So they figure, so you have to let them know, we also have to be very selective when we get a client, right, that comes and it's totally unrealistic. There's no way, we're God's assistant. There's no way we could get him to agree on this one. So we're better off to say next. And a lot of times they'll say, you know what, let's talk it out. And then it becomes a better relationship between you and the client, which is very important.
Exactly.
Because people are coming to a matchmaker for a service that we have to provide more information than they're getting online. They're confused. They've been doing online dating. The worst clients that I get are the ones who've been online and now they're coming to you. It's like they came out of jail. Like they're all disheveled. They don't know what, they don't trust people. Everybody's wrong. So you have to reboot everything. And I find that those are getting more tough, as opposed to before. I never got anybody from online. So it was much easier.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a question that leads from, it's kind of unrelated to what I was actually going to ask you, but I think do you notice that with online dating, a lot of guys want to spend their time just chatting and talking and nobody actually wants to pick up the phone and talk anymore? And
you know what? That's from online dating, because I've been doing this professionally for 14 years. And only this past year, I got a client, a younger client, that has been doing online, and he doesn't get it when I tell him, you can't do the same what you do online. This is not the same thing. You don't text women. You pick up a phone.
correct.
This is the first time I ever had this. And I'm like, you can't text. That's nonsense.
No,
We do all the work. We do all the work for you. All you have to do is pick up a telephone. How simple. It's the most simple thing that could happen to you, really. We're the ones who are stressed out. We're the ones who have to get everything going. We have to do all the, make sure you're safe with COVID and everything. And you just have to pick up a phone. How hard is that?
well, I mean, for some people, obviously it is pretty hard, but maybe we can even give them some tips on how you even have the conversation when you do pick up the phone to call. What would be some good, obviously, like, hi, how are you? What do you do? Where are you from? But some other good things that will.
One of the things that I tell people, that because I do the work, they know what they're kind of getting. Do you understand? They know the things to talk about, so that I've prepared them for that.
Right.
That's the coaching part before they start. But you can't really predict how a conversation's going to go. I mean, have you ever done that? You stand in front of the mirror before you went out on a date and you were planning the whole night and everything went completely the opposite. It all depends on that attraction too, right?
Right.
Like,
I think
my thing with guys, I say, women always say, I want to laugh. Okay. So the guy has a lot of pressure to make the girl laugh. It's not easy when you're, you know what I mean? You're not Howie Mandel that it just comes natural, or Seinfeld. So I tell the guys, just, funny means simple, meaning don't get so deep. You don't have to make the first conversation like, what do you do? Where do you go? Like I did the interview. You just enjoy it. Make it like fun, like try to make it easy. Pick up a phone and talk about like the things you like I know you like to travel. Talk about travel, especially these times, right? People are stuck in such a rut. Day after day, things are changing. So this part of your life should be uplifting. So I always tell, don't talk about the COVID right away. Let it go. Try to go on vacation for a little time. So when you're on vacation, you're at mode, relax, lay back. And that's the way you should be speaking. So that people are uncomfortable.
I think also keeping it very simple is the best. I mean, any conversation, when you go to a, party, you keep the conversation very simple and it starts flowing, and then you can go from there. But if you sort of go in very nervous and, things just go awry.
Right. It's like the verbal diarrhea. The person is so nervous. They just say everything and it's coming out like, blah, 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 and you don't even understand a word. And you're like, they're nervous. And that's why I always tell women, and because women could talk about anything. Like I could have a conversation with you about your hair, your nails, or where you go. Men don't have that. So I always tell women, remember, a man's social vocabulary is not as wide as yours. So don't be so hard on him. He doesn't know his hairdresser's life story. He's not interested. He's business. So, give him a break. Don't expect so much so fast. Take your time. Get to know. And some people are not very open right away. It takes some time, which is good, right?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, even
Sure.
like you're saying, like you've been doing it for 14 years. What are some of the changes you've seen over the 14 years? Like, think about this, right? 14 years
Okay.
ago, guys, when they would approach girls, it was completely different than now.
Mhm.
Now you have a lot of very strong-minded, professional, successful women, and now it's about how do they meet them, and maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that and some things you've seen.
Well, going back in time, not just so much as change, because women now have, their careers are so important. Having children is not as important to a lot of them anymore, but what's really changed is what I have to ask as questions. Like, for instance, when I first started 14 years ago, professionally, because I've been doing this all my life, is the tattoos. I never really knew women who had a lot of tattoos.
Mhm.
And that became really big because a lot of men don't like tattoos, or women don't like tattoos, which was something so new to ask, and then as time changed, people got into having animals, dogs now. I mean, everybody's got a dog in COVID. Now I have to make sure that you're not allergic to the dog. And if, because no one's giving away their dog so fast. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
there's so many different questions, just questions now have changed. And I don't know what's going to happen after COVID, what's going to change, but the thing right now is good for everybody, if they are meeting, it's that it's simple. It's back to the days of our parents, as if nobody had money to really go fancy, because you can't go fancy. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like more old fashioned, like, a walk in the park, a picnic, a drive. So that's changing. So people are not really so focused right now on money and business. It's not that conversation right now. It'll eventually go back to that, where, again, it'll be like women in power and working, who's giving up their career, who's not giving up, who's moving for who, it'll go back to that. Right now, we're at a very simple time in dating, and it's actually good because people don't have to overkill. They could go out in a pair of jeans and not feel that pressure,
Right. So I have a question. When a guy nowadays has to have his first date on Zoom, how should he dress? Because of course they can't see what you're wearing pants down, but in terms of your shirt, what do you think a guy should dress? I think that's always a big concern. What should I wear if I'm sitting on Zoom and I'm meeting somebody for the first time?
You know what? I tell the same thing as if you're going out to meet somebody. Exactly like Rohan, black top. It looks good on everybody. Don't wear pink and orange and purples. It's too much. Simple black, exactly like Rohan's wearing. That's exactly what I tell the men to wear. Even on a first date when they go out, simple. And women too, just keep it simple, Don't put everything on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what about some other ideas too, Susan? Because, I know that like when people are dating now, outside of the first date, when they meet someone, they talk and just keeping it light and simple, but doing some fun activities, we know that people should try to do something like either both of them buy like the same bottle of wine so they can try it together, or try to cook together, even from Zoom, by trying to make a dish together. What other ideas have you given maybe some of your clients that have been good ideas or
Well, before the pandemic, I do a lot of long distance relationships. So how they really work is they have to actually kind of be together. So I was doing this, started last October, where let's say you're in California and the girl's in Boston.
Mhm.
So either I could help you or you guys do it, is you go actually to a restaurant and she goes to a restaurant. So you're actually together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just do fun things, or you go to you know, somewhere and she goes, but you're actually together. And that's what I think the long distance, why it's so successful, is because it started off like almost fun. It was a fun thing, you know?
No, it definitely makes. I mean, even for me, I mean, I just think like when I met my wife, you know, we kind of did like even long distance. I mean, LA to the Bay Area, but just having the conversations on the phone and things like that, and just keeping it simple and light kind of worked because she showed her personality, I showed my personality, and all kind of worked out in our favor. And
Well, that's one thing I tell people when they ask me about long distance. I said, you actually today, in the last, I'd say the last few years, people who are long distance tend to put more into it because we don't take each other for granted, right? You and your wife, when you were first dating and you were separated, when you saw each other, you know, you had a lot to talk, you did a lot, you talked a lot, or you did, you know, FaceTime at night because you knew there was a distance and you wanted to know where she was at and you wanted to keep it together. But when people are in the same city, and this is before the pandemic, people were taking each other for granted. Oh, you know what? I don't have to see him tonight. I'll call him next week. I won't text her for 4 days and I'll text her. More game playing. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I think.
Which leads me to my question: what's a man's biggest turnoff about women? You know, I think women need to know what do men get turned off? We know what, you know, what women get turned off with. What about men?
One of the things I find that men get the most turned off is when there's a lot of drama or insecure, when she's insecure.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, and that's another thing when men come to me in their 50s or 60s and they want a younger girl. I said, you really want to go through all that insecurity? I mean, I'm a woman. I know what I went through in my 20s. I know what I went through in my 30s, you know? It's only till you get into your 40s you really got it. And you get older, you even get it more. So that's how I get men to come out of that age thing when they realize they have to go back. It's almost like going back in time, and it could be it could be challenging with drama and insecurities, you know?
Correct.
Yeah, I that's a great point. Another thing too that I want to hit home with that you already said, that what you've been doing since last October and dealing with long distance and how people have been thriving through that, that's good news for everyone that's going through this shelter in place situation, that, you know, basically, even if you live in the same city, you still can't see each other and you can still grow. And
100%, it's long distance everywhere now. This is the new world that we live in. And you know what? It's actually like, I'm in Florida now, and I work in Florida for 4 months out of every year. And I used to feel like I used to go back and forth or have to travel, you know? It's almost become like a bit of a blessing that here we are, you're in California, I'm here. And this is a new world that it's taking a lot of stress off of us.
In actual fact,
You know,
I think Zoom is helping people date better, because a lot of times before you were just talking on the phone or texting, and now you can actually get right to the Zoom call and actually see what the person looks like, connect with them, and actually find out if there's even chemistry, rather than, I don't know how people find chemistry through text messages. I haven't figured that one out.
But Auntie Renu,
even with myself, I don't like text messaging.
Yeah.
Even with clients, I don't like it. I think because then it's very, you know, they'll think you're in a bad mood because you only answered yes, thank you. You know,
Yeah.
like what's wrong? Like, they don't know you. They don't know you're busy. When you're in email, you take more time to respond to an email. You know, I'm really busy, I'll get back to you. But a text is, it's fast, you know? It's well, I don't like using it. But I have to tell you, for now with matchmaking, the Zoom, this thing, Skype and Zoom, it's actually, I find when I'm interviewing now, we're all much more comfortable.
Yes.
Because I'm not sitting there like, you know, in front, and they're in their home, they could have a glass of wine if they want, they could have a cup of coffee, and they're not feeling that we're in charge or we're in control. And I love it.
I'm really enjoying it too. Kamal and I are having a blast on Zoom, meeting all kinds of people. It's so cool.
Right. So
Yeah,
amazing.
because
I
when
mean,
now I think now what you see is what you get. You know, because you're right away, you're both at your just there, like.
Yes.
you know,
So
with
we have-
all
Go
this
ahead,
now
sorry.
kind of going back to the old ways, do you think it is good? Because, you know, things were moving so fast and so much was going on. It's like taking a few steps back and now it's the good old days. Is that, do you think it's going to stay or is it just temporary?
Well, I gotta tell you, back in last November, I told my partner, I said, I don't know what's gonna change, but something major is gonna change in this world. He asked me, he goes, why? Why do you say that? I said, because things are not good. People are not happy. It's greedy. It's never enough. It's always more. You know, something's gonna change. It has to change. This world can't go on like this. And look what happened. And the pandemic's exactly what's changed people. I mean, did you ever think that you can't see your friend for a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
2020?
Or you
You
have to
know?
think, you have to
The other-
think when you're walking into a store now, you kind of think, should I even go to the store or just shop online? Yeah. We have basically
Exactly.
2 minutes left now. We have a show, Susan. So really quickly, in summary, tell us a little bit about, how people can reach you if they want some advice on life coaching and, so that you have an opportunity as well for people to connect with you. And also for all those who
Yeah,
tune in, Prem Connection works with matchmakers all over the world. So if we have clients that are going to, that might be a good match for Susan's clients, you never know, right?
Right.
And vice
Absolutely.
versa. I can work with you guys too. This is
Yeah.
great.
Yes, absolutely. How can people reach you, Susan?
They could go onto my website. That's Susan Alper Connections. And they could contact me and then I'll send them back an email and then we could set up a chat.
Perfect. Perfect.
It's simple, easy for people.
I think it's great. And before we end, I really want to tell you, Susan, I think it's fantastic that you've been doing it for 14 years. We think that you have given us a lot of good information for our listeners. I also think it's great during this COVID time that you're saying like that things have been changing, that basically, we have to adapt and we have to find ways to be happy. And now think about this, how important your life is with what's really happening. So let's not waste time dating and let's let the matchmakers do their work and do the work for you, because every minute is so important and life is so important. So
And you guys go to work and we do the full-time job of finding your perfect soulmate. That's our job.
Absolutely. I tell people, you hire people to find you the best homes. So you need to hire people to find you the best life partner. You don't need to go and spend $10 on an app. That's
100%.
Well, I'm glad we're all on the same page.
And thank you again, Susan, so much. And we hope to have you again in the future. And we will.
I hope so too.
We will connect.
Thank
I hope to work
Thank
with you.
you. Thank you for staying up late. I
Great.
know it's 7 o'clock at night in
Yeah.
Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Stay safe, guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Rohan, did you get any tips over there? I know you're married now, but what do you think?
I mean, I think that there are great tips there. I think that the confidence and keeping it light is really important. I think more than anything, showing your personality without trying too hard is the best way to get into a girl's heart. Because if you fake it, they're gonna tell, and you can't keep that up for the rest of your life. So.
And what about picking up the phone and talking? What's your message to all the men listening?
Yeah, just do it. Like that's just more personable.
Yeah.
You're looking for a life partner. You're not looking for a business acquaintance or a friend. You're looking for a life partner. You want to hear a voice. You want to feel that connection audibly, not just visually. So I think that that's really important. I mean, I'm that generation. So phone for me is it's much better to call and talk to someone than text.
And now it doesn't even cost you anything. When I was talking to my first husband, the bill used to be like in thousands of shillings from Kenya to the US. I was only allowed to speak to him once a week. Thanks to Miss Kamal over there.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Yes, well, thank
I
you
was
so
a
much.
matchmaker, so that's why.
Thank you. And we'll see everyone back. We'll be back in the new year. We're going to be off for Christmas and Christmas and New Year. We'll be back in 2021. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Holidays.
Thank you.